and making resources and helping them with our platform to source volunteers. And yeah, that's generally the gist of what I'm doing. So trying to bring some of that over for you guys as well.
Excellent. Nick, you want to say hello to everybody?
Yeah, I'm Nick Chambers. I'm the Chief Executive of Education Employers, obviously also from England. I started my career as a teacher in the north of England. And a lot of what I used to do was to bring people into the classroom to show children what they could be in life and to excite and motivate and take kids out and do some of the things that I've been seeing here. So that's the sort of genesis where I come from in terms of the impact on young people, of understanding the opportunities they have open to them. And that's sort of really what drives me to make sure kids can really get to see what's out there and what they could be and are helped to be what they can be. And I think that's whether you're in England or whether you're in BC, it's the same sort of desire to want the best for kids and to show them what's possible and to help them. And it's been fantastic being here since Monday. I'll take a bit long, but it's really impressed to see what you're doing here. So probably enough from me. There you go.
Thank you. Ava, hi, nice to see your face. We've been emailing, but nice to have you here.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, and my apologies for not being there yesterday. Just a little bit under the weather this week, unfortunately. Just such a shame that it had to be this week. But I'm Ava Receiver. I'm a senior policy analyst on the career programs and policy team at the Ministry of Education and Childcare. So some of you guys, I may know some of you guys, and some of you may know Melissa Zacharias, who was my former director. She has since moved on to the Ministry of Child and Family Development, so doing great work over there, still working with students and with children. Our new director, Danny Tones, will be joining us at 11. He just had to be in another meeting right now, so just want to do that quick exit intro. But so my team really develops programs, policies, and projects focused on career exploration and career development for students in the kindergarten through grade 12. I won't focus too much on our programs in the high school space, but a lot of them really are preparing students for that transition from high school to the world of work, whether they're going direct to work or going straight into post-secondary. In the elementary school space, the more K-7, K-8 space, we, over the past couple of years, specifically due to COVID, from our team, there has been a ton of K-8 programming, but we are starting to get, in general, a lot more projects off the ground, and that really did start with our K-8 career exploration project that we partnered with Education and Employers for. So that's really exciting. Kind of as Charlotte just mentioned, and Nick and Lisa, that it really is about exposing students to professionals from the world of work to show them that there's just so many possibilities for their future. And they will also be developing resources that educators can use to carry out these activities in their classrooms going forward, of course, after they have to return to the UK. And I will let you all know as well that we are expecting to receive funding in April in the new fiscal year as part of a cross-ministry, cross-government initiative. And for us, our funding will go towards initiatives that will be rolling out in the next 5 years, and of which K-8 in the elementary school space is a part of that. And the projects, of course, will also kind of have a lens on connecting our programs to vulnerable youth, low-income students, and students from all regions of the province, urban, rural, remote, Indigenous students. So really having that kind of focus over the next 5 years. I've talked quite a bit. If anyone has any questions after, please let me know. But I'm really, really excited to be here with everyone today and to meet you all and chat with you.
Thanks, Ava. That's awesome. Yeah, we look forward to hearing more about the projects and things you're working on and how we can collaborate and be a part of all that. That would be awesome. Allison, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Bonnie. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me. I am a passion expert in career education. I've been in this field for I don't know, when did we meet, Bonnie? 10 years ago? And I just really love what education employers have been doing. I have been following you from the sidelines, so it's really great. I love your message about expanding horizons and stopping the stereotypes. Our district has written a guidebook for K to 7, 8 and 9s, 10 through 12s, and I support that whole gauntlet of career development here in Kamloops with the team. We have Rick Keenline at the top, and we've got Carrie Gardner, and we've got Sheila Monkman and Angela Panette. So we're really happy with the work that we're doing and just helping to help students.
Thanks, Allison. And for those that maybe are just meeting Allison for the first time, she is the yes person. So you need something or sorry, Allison, open the door there, but also very well connected in the CES world. And, you know, hey, Allison, you're very well connected here in the province. So I really appreciate any sort of things that we do together. It's always very fruitful. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Great. Darcy, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Darcy Zibin. I am the Careers K-9 teacher here in Cowichan, School District 79, and it's a new position for me this year. So I'm just gleaning all the information I can from all of you and getting some great ideas from you. Thanks for having me, Bonnie.
Yeah, Darcy, I'm super glad you're here and we're able to make time. Darcy does a lot in a very short amount of time. Really passionate teacher librarian, I guess, was really the lens. So we do an amazing work out in Cowichan. I wish you were closer. I wish you were in our district. Yeah. Thanks. Greg, do you want to go next?
Sure. So my name is Greg Muirhead, and I'm from School District 69, which is Parksville Qualicum. And my primary role in the district is one of our career coordinators with a focus mostly on train and trades and work and trades with the youth. And then doing a lot of our youth events. So our Youth Explore the Trades events, and then kind of working a lot with that. So I've been in the career education world for about 10 or 11 years, and it's really nice to kind of work with everybody here.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Nice to meet you. I don't know if we've met before, so this is kind of a neat opportunity to connect. George, would you like to go next?
Sure, I can do that. George Richard, District Career Coordinator, Career Education Coordinator out of Salmon Arm. So the district is 83, Shuswap, North Okanagan region. Pardon me. Just this is my very first year in this newly developed role. There'd be a number of you who'd be familiar with Reed Finley. I am his guy who does his bidding, so to speak, while he's off chasing much larger monsters educationally in our district at this point. So I'm drinking from a fire hose at this point, still learning a tremendous amount. My portfolio includes K-12 curriculum development to support careers, district field trip opportunities and spotlight sessions, and dual credit opportunities, but primarily academic dual credit opportunities. So my background is with primarily teaching planning 10 courses and CAP courses when they came about. So I do have that 20+ year experience doing that sort of stuff, but it's been firmly in secondary, and it's great to be able to branch out and to be able to learn more about the curriculum K-8, and this project has given me a good opportunity to help explore that. So I'm thankful for the pilot opportunity and to be able to do stuff within the district to be able to explore that. Thanks.
Thanks, George. And I think a lot of people are at that kind of part in their career where they're given an opportunity to focus on the elementary and middle finally. So it's pretty exciting time actually for all of us to be working together and sharing our successes and strengths. So thank you. Thanks for being here today. Jill, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Jill Stacy from Langley School District, number 35. And I've been a career teacher for probably 10 years and just moved into a district teacher position in September. And I'm here with Lara Petrie, who just over there listening in. who's been a district teacher for career education for 10, 12 years. We've got we're really happy with the secondary development of our programs, and our focus is heading now to K-8 or K-7. We've done a fairly decent job of the grade 8 piece. So K-7 is where we're headed next. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. Nice to meet you. Glad you're here too. Dawn, would you like to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn Anderson. I'm one of the careers program teachers for the Comox Valley. I do careers curriculum. I do dual credit, work experience, ADST, the other things. And yeah, just happy to be here. Really happy to have worked with the K-8 program. That's an amazing learning opportunity, and happy to continue to take things forward, looking at what we can do even in the province, and moving forward with just the curriculum aspects and engaging more teachers.
Yeah, Dawn, that's something, such a big strength of yours is your curriculum development and your lessons, and really helping make connections and inspire teachers to make those connections. So glad that you're here, of course. Brad, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm here with Brenna. We do the trade and trades, work and trades coordinators for the school district. They're primarily focused on obviously high school years, similar to Greg. And like Jill, we're hoping to sort of branch out more into the elementary model. And I'm basically here for ideas to listen what's working, what's not, and to make connections and hopefully get our faces out there and try to encourage. We've noticed a bit of a gap in our grade 6 and 7 years for skills exploration and trainings, or exploration, and hoping to fill that gap.
Thanks a lot, Brad. It's nice to have you both here. And yeah, it should be a good day today of doing some really neat share outs. Lindsay, are you available? There you are.
Lurking in the background without my camera on. Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Johnson, and I am also in the Greater Victoria School District. And I guess what I would just like to say is just how proud I am of Bonnie and the work that she's doing in that elementary middle space. It's quite inspiring, and creating these connections across the world is extremely powerful. And I think our connections within our province, the work that all of these people here are doing, is pretty inspiring. And Ava, I'm so glad you're here from the ministry to be able to hear from the real experts in the field and the people on the ground who are making huge differences every day and doing what they can to do the cross collaboration across our province. And so I think you will see that these people here are doing this work in a beautiful, meaningful, wonderful way. So I look forward to having some more collaboration with the ministry for you to really dive in and hear from all of these people about what they're doing, because the work's happening and it's amazing. So thanks everyone, and thanks Bonnie, and thanks to everybody from around the world who's here today. It's been an awesome experience.
Thanks, Lindsay. I can't say enough things about how Lindsay supports, K-12. Kevin and I work really closely together, so nice to have both of them here. And that's a good segue to introducing Kevin. Kevin, come on.
Thanks. Thank you, Bonnie. And welcome everyone. And I guess my role in the district is my main role is a youth work and trades coordinator. So working with youth apprentices, along with youth train and trade students, as well as working with Bonnie closely with a bunch of tool trolley training for teachers in our schools. That we just put a whole bunch of tool trolleys into different schools, and educating teachers to start that journey with their students in their classrooms. And I think a big one is just getting over that hurdle of uncertainty with teachers, and building confidence. And I think that Bonnie and I have worked quite closely over the last 4 years now. This is my 4th year in this role. And starting from scratch. So we've come a long way, Bonnie, and we're moving up. We're flying up still, So this is great. So welcome everyone.
Thanks, Kev. Yeah, the work I do wouldn't happen without Kevin. So gotta say that first of all. Sam, are you available? I know you're working in the school, so you might be doing many tasks at one time. Yeah, so she might be with a student right now. Rhiannon, are you available? Ah, there you are.
Yes, hello. I'm also multitasking. As you can see behind me here, I'm part-time biology teacher and part-time careers teacher at Sides, which is our online school in Saanich School District 63. So I just got in from visiting a sheet metal company here in town in Victoria, where we have a youth work and trade student. And I also assist students with train and trades and I guess guide / teach our WEX, our work experience courses here at Sides. So happy to be here. Mostly my focus is grade 10s to, I guess, grade 9 to 12. But yeah, always wanting to know what's happening in other spots in the programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhiannon. Nice seeing you. Stan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Stan Watchorn. I work in Fraser Cascade School District, which is Agassiz Hope and Boston Bar. I'm brand new into the role, working with my colleague Carl Kozlowski, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
Excellent. Thanks, Stan. Nice to meet you. Glad you're here today. All right. I really should have grounded my work in a territorial acknowledgement. So I really do want to pay attention to that right this moment. So I do want to recognize and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories I'm hosting this event today. Just kind of want to ground the work and talk, we're looking at identity and students belonging and finding purpose and putting their feet down and understanding the land that we live on and honoring that. So thank you for joining us. I think what I'm going to do is going to just show a few slides of some of the projects I've been working on. Sorry if some of you have seen it before, but I just thought it can, again, kind of ground the work that I've been doing in elementary and middle. So my portfolio is just elementary and middle. So I'm very lucky that I have time. Time really is the most important thing to dedicate to these great ideas all of us have. So that is, I know, the biggest hurdle for many of us is that the ideas are there and the knowledge and passion is there. It's just finding time to test and to create and to write and to meet with teachers. It's a huge responsibility and a big job. So I feel very thankful that I have time to do that every day. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Does that look okay? You can see? Yeah, thanks, Rhiannon. Okay. I think a big part of my job, and I'm sure that many of others of you in district positions especially know that we are constantly selling what we do. We need our boards to understand what we do. We need teachers and admin to support the work we do and allow us in schools and give us, time to visit staff meetings and board meetings. It's something we see in our district as essential to us growing our programs and, growing sustainable programs. We want to be in these jobs long-term so that we can, really see the effects of what we're working on. We talk a lot about now, gathering data. So I'm in year 5 in this job. So it's for us, we should be starting to see the effects and positive effects of the work and the programs that we're offering in our elementary and middle schools. Some of you have been doing it for years and are really starting to enjoy the benefits of having students enter high school with really great, multiple experiences that they've hopefully had in their time, exposing them to people who do different careers. So it's simple, but it does take a long time to get people in a district on board and for them to really understand the why of what we do. And I just want to preface the reason, and the reason I'm here and I'm presenting the way that I do truly is because of our friends at Education Employers. Their research is pivotal to what I do, and it's what sells. And I say sell in a way, when I go to staff meetings, teachers are excited. They want to be part of these programs because they understand the why, and they understand how much impact they can make in students' lives and how important it is to start early. So I just kind of wanted to share that. That's something it's taken me kind of years to understand and know how important this work is. But selling it to our district and our community is key to us growing all our programs. I'm just going to touch on these things really briefly, but I think they're kind of the foundation of the work that we do here in the district. This is what I bring to staff meetings and I bring to admin meetings. I'm very highly kind of, if there's a meeting to go to, I will go in and do a good old 15-minute presentation to for more people to understand and get more information about, you know, early years career education. So research, of course, that comes from our friends' research from the UK. Something about habits of engagement. This is something I'm going to share with you, a stat that we discovered in September. The idea of how to be a career influencer. This is the language that I use when I'm talking to teachers, especially in admin, is this idea that we're all career influencers. It's a big responsibility, but it's an opportunity to really get kids engaged in their learning at school. I'm going to talk to you about our tool trolleys and maker centers very briefly. This is a way that we've been able to make really meaningful connections with our teacher librarians in our schools. They are now our advocates for career education through the tools and the resources that we've provided them. So it's had a really beautiful impact on our relationship with teachers in schools, which takes a lot of time to develop. In our district, there's always a little bit of kind of, who are you from the district coming in and you know, kind of sweeping in with things and then leaving. And our commitment to all our schools is that, you know, I'm here long term as much as I can be. And our programs are meant to be sustainable and long lasting. And then just briefly, some of the, you know, a couple of the events that we've hosted, completely and utterly inspired by education employers. And I'll just share a video with you briefly too, that will show you one of the events that we host in our district. Here's our research. So education employers, this is my mantra, and we talk about why career education in the early years. So linking the learning to the real world. So we just say to teachers, it's as little as you're teaching something, talk to them about the type of person that does that job. Bring that guest in. It's so simple, but it is something that gets missed. So staff meetings, this is my mantra. The idea of broadening aspirations, kids can't be what they can't see. And if we're talking equity on a bigger scale, all students need to be exposed to as many careers as possible in all the different types of schools that we have in our districts. And then challenging stereotypes in school. Obviously, this is huge. And it's not just gender stereotypes. It could be, you could be a new immigrant family that is worried that there's barriers in their way to, you know, for their students' future careers. There's a lot of different stereotypes that students face. In our district, this is what we really kind of want to hit home. We even do this with our families when we meet with families for family nights. It's that idea of, you know, we want to flip the what do you want to do when you grow up to who do you want to be? And so again, that idea of students exploring who they are and learning about themselves, taking risks, trying new things, not being set on one career. I'm speaking to the choir, so I know you all feel similarly. Okay, so this idea of habits and engagement, this is kind of a new thing that I've started to add to my presentations. And again, it really seems to strike a chord with teachers, which is perfect. This was a Gallup poll, and I do preface with this is post-COVID. So I'm sure, and we are all sure that COVID has played a part in this, but I still think that the information is key, which is this idea of people feeling not engaged with their work. So whether or not that's they're not making meaningful connections with other people in their organization, maybe the work they don't find meaningful or feel like they're making a difference, or maybe the work isn't of interest to them. So this stat was 79% of adults worldwide feeling this way. So this idea of when does this disengagement start to happen? So when are these habits of disengagement? Are they, you know, they're happening in school. And so how are we going to interrupt these behaviors and these attitudes? You know, we look here, 2/3 of students in high school feeling disengaged. I think anybody working in a high school, that feels quite high to me, but I still think there's a lot to be said about that stat and a lot to kind of interpret. So we really want to flip this, and research shows us how to do that. And it's make connections to learning to the real world. So students understand why they're doing what they're doing in school. How do these subjects relate to the world and the type of life that they want to have for themselves in the future? How to be a career influencer. So we know this is, again, research-based. They need to start as early as possible. They need as many experiences and as diverse amount of experiences as possible for better, and we don't say success, but better transition after they leave our school system. So not NEET. So NEET is not an employment, education, or training. So we want those numbers to be lower. We want students to leave school with a plan. And then leveling the playing field. So not all students are having the same conversation at the end of the day. Some families love their jobs. Some members of their family dislike their jobs. They wish they didn't have to work there. They don't feel engaged. They don't feel it's challenging them. So our students are coming to us from very different perspectives about what the world of work is in their perspective, or could be. So tool trolleys. This is a really great initiative. It was so much work, but Kevin and I and Lindsay were committed to getting tools in schools. These are quite large carts. There is a lot of tools in there, and not just tools for tools' sake. They're tools that are connected to projects that we're developing. They're connected to skills. We've got a website that's teachers can do training on the website, do a safety quiz. We go into schools and do build days in schools. We do teacher training. This is a huge undertaking. We have 28 elementary schools. So we use sponsors, we use ITA money. We're able to kind of commit, a few years to making this goal happen. So we're now in year 2, and teachers are really starting to run with this. We're getting out to more schools than ever. But essentially this tool trolley program connects to career education so beautifully. And we just felt like as part of our department, this was a huge success getting these into our schools. And maker centers. So maker centers were something that kind of happened organically. I was talking to a teacher librarian who had this amazing maker center. And we talked about, what are our hopes for the future for our schools, and how can Maker create, again, meaningful connections between children's learning and the outside world. So our Maker Center grants, each elementary school, once the teacher librarian applied, there was a grant they could apply for, $2,000. The $2,000 was to be put towards non-consumables. So, green screens, Ozobots, Lego, Connects, electrical, all sorts of things. They have to be items and resources that will be used long-term. So these are meant to stay in the school and to have a place in the library where stations can be created. So these stations and this learning is very rich, and through the leadership of the teacher librarians, it's just become an amazing program. So 28 of our schools now, elementary schools, they all have maker centers. We give top-up grants every year to show our commitment to them continuing to grow and to replace items that need replacing in those maker centers. We don't want them getting forgotten about. And then middle schools, we have everyone but one middle school now to get to this year. So we've got 9 middle schools with maker centers. They got $3,000 grants, bigger schools, more students. And we're just really proud of how our teacher librarians are really starting to weave career education into the activities and the stations that they're developing. So maker centers are just, again, happened organically, but just has been a huge impact on our department and our reach. So I highly recommend a program like this if there's budget for it. Okay, so I guess within a year of meeting Nick, they have some amazing videos that they've produced and programs. So this Redrawing the Balance is, you see that research stat there. So children's aspirations, this is based on data that's been collected. Children's aspirations and earning potential are shaped by their gender and who they know. And we see this time and time again. that students know about very few careers, and they're definitely, the gender assumptions are huge still. It's something we really need to work on. So I'm going to show you the video that we produced, and it was very much inspired by the video that Education Employers did. And it's really interesting to see that other school districts in other parts of the world have also done this video and done this project. So it's really neat seeing what people from different parts of the world are doing. Okay. Just gonna make sure I've got my sound turned on here. Okay, I'm going to give this a try, and we'll see if, just make sure the sound works for you. So sound, yes or no? I'll try again.
Not yet.
No? Okay. I am going to turn our record off. Oh, here we go.
So boys and girls, this morning, we're going to take some time to draw a few pictures of some different people doing different jobs. The first job is that of a police officer.
Oh, where's our police guy? Where's the police guy? And I have a man, a police officer. It's a policeman and he's stopping the traffic.
Next, we're going to draw an Olympic athlete. I also want you to think about what kind of equipment would they need for their sport.
Look, their goalie has a special face mask. I'm drawing Usain Bolt. I like him because he's super fast at running.
The next picture we're going to draw is an electrician. Boys and girls, I want you to think about what their name would be.
Bob, George, and Joe. Bob the Builder.
So we have a surprise for you guys right now. How would you like to meet the people who do these jobs?
Hi, my name is Constable Bruschetta. I'm a policewoman with the Saanich Police Office.
Hello, I'm Kate Haber, and I'm an athlete training for the Olympics.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Hartman. I am a journeywoman electrician.
Would you guys like to see my badge?
Yeah!
Very nice.
He fits you. He loves police.
No sound at this point.
Thank you. I was on mute. I just wanted to reiterate that this was a very easy event to organize. I found 3 women in no time that were excited to come and do the event. The reason we went to the trouble of filming it was because I share it with teachers and admin, and they watch something like that, it hits the heartstrings, and they go, you know what, this is really important. We should be doing similar events. So redrawing the balance is, you know, I have lessons that go along with it. They get a kit, essentially, the school, and the classes are prepared for these types of events before we run them. So, and that kind of leads us to our Guess My Job event. So again, this is based on a program in the UK that our friends do. They call it Guess My Line. We adapted it to our province and kind of meeting our career curriculum. It's a very simple concept. We went to film it yesterday at Frank Hobbs. We had lots of great guests there to watch the event. Essentially, it's really about interrupting kind of kids' stereotypes around who does what jobs. Students get to guess yes and no questions to our 4 panelists, and then they try to guess their job. The panelists leave, they come back with their uniforms and their tools of their trade. Kids are excited to hear what those people do. And it just is a really great experience. Students are well prepared with lessons before they come, so they've got amazing questions. They've already done a lot of exploration around different careers. Charlotte and Lisa, you could probably attest to some of the careers that the students knew about kind of blew us away. They had a really great breadth of careers already under their belt. So that was a really nice kind of surprise. Okay, I've talked a lot, so I'm just going to leave this. So we developed this Career Explorer workbook. It's in French and English. We share it with our teachers in the district, elementary and middle school. They're not super complicated, but the lessons that go along with it are really rich for teachers. The language that teachers are using, we're really trying to mentor to them how to, implement, but more importantly, for this to be in their everyday practice. So this is a great way for me to get our content into classrooms and supplement our, the events that we do in that. So this has been a pretty good success, and I'm going to working on a new edition of the middle school one, just because you come across great new information all the time and ideas for activities. So yeah, so that's our district workbook. This is where you find us. So this is our Pathways and Partnerships website. You can see the secondary, middle, and elementary school programs are there. So if you're curious about what we're doing or want to get connected with any of these resources, please feel free to go on our website and send me an email. I'm happy to help in any way I can. Okay. Thanks for everybody's attention. I think what we're going to do next is have Nick do his presentation.
I can do that. I think Danny, there's Danny, I think there's Danny just joined us. I don't know your camera on Danny, somewhere there. I don't know. Introduce yourself, I think, before I kick off. Was it there? I'm sure I saw him there.
I am here. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Nick. I jumped in from another meeting and here I am.
Great. Hi, Danny.
Well, hi, Bonnie. It's nice to meet you, yeah. To meet you and to at least connect virtually. I know we've been emailing back and forth, so it's wonderful to see you and others here. I see the size of the room. There's 18 of us. Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. I won't take up too much of your time. I know Nick has a few things to share with us, but I did want to stop in and say hello, introduce myself. My name is Danny Tones. I'm the new Director of Career and Skill Development with the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Many of you may have met or worked with my predecessor, Melissa Zacharias. Melissa has moved on to another ministry in a director role as well. So here I am, very much looking forward to the projects that are underway and many more that are coming at us starting in the new fiscal year. Fingers crossed that the budget is approved at the end of the month, but I will have a lot of excitement, interesting news to share with you should things proceed as planned. A couple of things I'd like to mention. One is that I would like to hear from you. So please always feel free to reach out. Email is the best way to get a hold of me, daniel.tones@gov.bc.ca. So please do get in touch. I'd love to hear about what you're doing, what you're up to, and what the ministry can do to support the work that you're doing or would like to do in the future. Would love to hear your feedback on projects that are underway, such as what Education and Employers is doing currently in BC. And of course, there will be more opportunities to get involved as other projects come online, these ones that I'm referring to vaguely at the moment. Perhaps just a very brief bit of my background. I've come to the ministry most recently from Kwantlen Polytechnic University, where I was a professor and department chair, and for a time, an associate dean. I have some background in the municipal context. I was a program coordinator for 8 years, along with the 15 or so years I was at KPU. But I went to school to become a secondary school music teacher. That's what was really interesting me at the time. I did go on to get an independent schools teaching certificate and work as a teacher on call, but I found myself most active in the post-secondary environment, and that has led me to where I am now. In any case, happy to chat more at a different time. Please do get in touch. Thank you to Ava for putting our email addresses in the chat. Wanted to extend a warm welcome to Nick, Charlotte, and Lisa, our partners from Education and Employers, who have crossed an ocean to be here with us and present some of their programming to our BC educators and students. So looking forward to what Nick's about to share with us, the research supporting the work that they do. With that, welcome Nick, Charlotte, Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's fantastic to be here. I mean, as Bonnie said, you know, this is about learning from each other. We've been here since Monday and I've learned a huge amount. So whether you learn anything from me, I don't know, I hope you will, but I've certainly learned a lot from you already. And I've been to 6 schools. I think we've got 2 more to go. Quite a whirlwind. Thanks to Dawn and Bonnie for sending us some fantastic visits. It's really interesting the difference between schools, things you're doing differently here from England. Some really great things, particularly liked, you know, the idea of the teacher, librarian teachers. We don't have those in England. You know, the competencies framework, some great stuff we've seen on there, the tool trolleys. I mean, it's just amazing things you're doing. I'm going to show some of the international research, and I hope out of that there may be elements that you think, that might be applicable here. But as I say, you made us feel very welcome. We feel very privileged to have gone around and seen some of the great work that is already going on. I think, as Bonnie started off by saying, this is about sharing with each other, learning ideas, you know, all different things people are doing and seeing if we can build together. So I'm just going to, if this works, share my screen. Let me just see if we, is that working for everyone?
Yeah, that looks great.
Well, that's obviously us. Right, so I founded this charity 13 years ago. It's a charity that works internationally, but its focus really is on helping young people achieve their potential. And that is because I came from a teaching background and I saw that some kids had more opportunities than others. And I wanted to sort of level the playing field and give all the same children the same chances to be inspired and see what was possible. Back home, well, just a slight thing when you were talking, this is my workshop. I have my hobby. I make things. So when I've been in seeing these tool trolleys, I'm very, very envious. So yesterday, Bonnie had to drag me away from the tool trolley. I was so excited. But yeah, so personally, it's great to see the emphasis here on trades, which we don't really have back in the UK. So, and that craft and creativity, it's really lovely to see, something we're missing actually in England. So I'm not going to take you all through this research, but we've been over the last 14 years looking at the research on what matters. And that's partly to persuade our ministry about why this is important. Your ministry sort of gets it, ours slightly further behind in some ways. So we've been looking at the research. Now, I'm only just going to give a top line of this because I'm going to focus mainly on the elementary, which is, I think, where you're most interested in, but all of our research is available on educationandemployers.org, not just our research, but there's a library that brings together research from all over the world, and you can search by key topics and names and so on. So if you just go to the research lab, you'll see all of our reports, you'll see lots of videos, you'll see lots of presentations, but you'll see a digest from all over the world of reports on careers, and that's freely available. So I'm just sort of highlighting some of the things that I think of our most significant things. One, as Bonnie alluded to, it's about broadening horizons. It's about raising aspirations. And for us, it's also about broadening aspirations because we know kids kids from more disadvantaged backgrounds often have more limited aspirations. They often have high expectations, but they're very narrow. I'll come on to that in a minute. The idea of challenging ingrained stereotypes. We all have ingrained stereotypical views about things, but actually some of those that young people have stick with them through into adulthood. So unless we change an early stage, actually we have problems because kids think, oh, I can't do that because I'm from this background, and they never try, and then suddenly they can't do it because it's too late. So challenging that at an early stage is really important. We also looked that the link between who kids meet, particularly from the world of work, has an impact on motivation that leads to academic attainment. So we did a study of 16-year-olds that showed that ones who'd been out into the workplace or had the workplace coming in, they were more motivated and did better academically because they could see a purpose of what they were doing. So there's quite a lot of evidence around that. Neat, this idea of not being education and training. We did a report about 10 years ago now, where we looked at 19 to 24-year-olds, and we looked at the data of what they did when they were in school. And we found there was a link between those who'd had an experience of the world of work and the chances of being neat. So 26% were neat, had no link with the world of work. So 26% of 19-year-olds were not in education and employment, and it had no link. The ones who'd had 4 or more encounters with the world of work, that dropped to something like 4%. So, and that is now sort of part of our government policy, this idea of encounters with the world of work actually reduces by a factor of 5 your chances of being unemployed. It's a bit more sophisticated than that, but that's the sort of headline. Who you meet impacts on whether you're likely to end up with a job. Also what you earn, about making best things, and this mismatch, and we'll come on to this, and this is a global issue around what kids' aspirations are and where the jobs are. And I have various conversations with a number of you over the last 3 or 4 days, and it's as common here as it is in other parts of the world. Is this okay, Bonnie? Interrupt me if you want me to stop. I'll just keep going. All right. Okay. So I'm going to focus now particularly on sort of 5 to 11, 5 to 12, and our work around that. So we've done a lot of research looking at kids' aspirations and how they link together. So I'm going to come on to some of those now. So Bonnie's already stolen my thunder by showing me this other picture of the video, which we did, the redraw the balance one. If you've got a minute, actually, I might just show you the, if this works. Is the sound on? Can you hear the sound?
今天我们来画一画几个不同职业的人。我们先来画外科医生。
Nick, we can't see it.
Yeah.
那你觉得外科医生这个职业怎么样？
Hang on. You can't see it, but you can hear it. Right. Sorry, I don't know what's happened there. It's my incompetency. Can you see that now?
No.
Right, abandon that one. Okay, I shall go back to my slide. Can you see my slide now? Right, ignore that one. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a Chinese version which I'll show you later. Right. No. Okay, and obviously Bonnie's shown the fantastic one. It's really impressive about how people do that. So we did this study in 2017, and it's a very simple thing, really. We got kids to draw pictures of what they wanted to be. They got a bit of paper and they wrote down, what job do you aspire to? And also, had you heard about anyone who does that job? And if not, how do you heard about the job? There was other data we collected about the languages you spoke at home, poverty and various others. So it was a simple snapshot. At the time, we didn't really know anyone here in BC, so we didn't have anyone from BC. It wasn't a deliberate policy. This was really word of mouth. So we had, I think, 19 countries. And the key findings for that, from the age that gender stereotyping about jobs was at a young age, and it was a global issue. Everywhere we went, same issue. There was only one country where the girls and boys chose the same job, and that was Iceland, which is what the World Economic Forum always says is best gender neutral. Everywhere else, it was very evident. Mainly, boys wanted to be sports people, girls wanted to be teachers, and that was pretty universal. Again, all of this is on the website, so I'm only going to tell you the headlines. What was more surprising to us is that patterns that 7-year-olds were choosing were similar, not the same, but similar to 17-year-olds. In a minute, I'll show you a graph of that. I think that was quite stark, that those ingrained things start young. That after parents and carers and the media community, the biggest influences on TV and now more on YouTube and probably TikTok, massive influence. And in England at the time, less than 1% of children got to meet someone from the world of work, the sort of thing that Bonnie did yesterday, and I got a picture of what we did yesterday. Less than 1% actually got to meet somebody. That there was also very little in common with the economy and where jobs were, and that actually in some countries done quite a lot of work in Uganda. You know, often they want to, you know, they want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, they want to be pilots. You take certain parts of England, they all want to be YouTubers and celebrities. That was a bit of a generalization, but you know, actually it was quite interesting that some of those countries like Uganda and Ghana and other than Bangladesh, that their desire was more professional jobs than in certain parts of England. I think we found that slightly surprising. So in England, you'll see there the top job was teacher, and probably because like here, you know, the majority of elementary teachers are female. They're fantastic role models. They're what children see every day, and so that's sort of what you aspire to. Boys, you know, sports, social media on the other side. So you could see very clearly, you know, girls hairdresser, singer, dancer, boys police, sportsman, and mechanic. I think this is beginning to change, but it needs to change a lot faster than it has. We then asked them how they knew anyone. Well, half of it saying parents, so parents, neighbours, and the other half, well, I've not heard that, someone coming into your school or connecting. Now, to me, the argument is that's the bit we can change. We can't change easily the other bits. We can't easily change what kids see on TV, or to their parents. But actually, that is something together we can easily affect and change. And I think that's the biggest potential we have. This was a graph which I did, which showed the economic sectors. This is in the UK, but there are similar patterns around the world. So those are our 26 economic sectors. In light orange is what 7-year-olds were choosing, and in dark orange, 17-year-olds. What I can't do from here is actually if anyone's commenting on the chat, so Bonnie will interrupt me if you need to. But what that is showing is it doesn't really matter what the sectors are. C6 is culture, media, and sport, and I think C8 is engineering. What it's showing in early stages, those patterns, you know, where you have very high for 7, it's still very high at 17, and where it's very low, it's still very low. So there's a sort of a link there between those 7-year-olds and 17-year-olds. Again, we come back to what's happening in Australia. Again, very similar actually to England. Bangladesh, look at the sort of jobs, the professions they're aspiring to. Engineer, doctor, airline pilot, girls doctor. It's quite remarkable, actually. And, you know, so they've done some amazing, obviously some fantastic budding artists in Bangladesh. The pictures they drew are amazing. We then did another version. I wonder if this video will play. Is that playing? Is that playing?
You're about to see a very interesting...
No, we can't see it. We can hear, but we can't see.
Right, well, in a minute, I might go back to... right, okay, well, it doesn't matter. So what the New Zealand government did is they did, having done a sort of global one, they did a detailed study of their own country, and they got 7,500 children to take part, led by the Education Minister, who's Chris Hipkins, who you may know has recently become the PM and has done some fantastic thing around there. And what that was showing, again, not dissimilar, family member, there you are at 20%, famous people, 13.9%, right down the bottom, you know, police, you know, people coming into your school, 0.5%.
Nick,
Okay.
just so you know, we've lost the slides. We can't see the slideshow anymore.
All right, hang on, I've been completely hopeless today. What is going on? Right, sorry about that.
Nick, I'm trying to find those videos on YouTube. I might be able to share them.
Is that working now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Right, again. All right. So those slides. So there you see. So a huge influence. Thank you for interrupting me. Family members. Then at the bottom, you know, just how few people have actually got to meet people in reality. And as I say, that's the thing we can change. Now, this was particularly interesting, the way they presented their data. And this was looking at sort of supply and demand. So on the left-hand side, you know, the number of children aspiring to things and on the number of jobs, not dissimilar to that graph I showed you earlier. Not dissimilar if you looked at the current career aspirations of children in the UK against labour market. And this is a pretty uniform. I was in Sweden a couple of weeks ago, and you know, very similar patterns of shortage of certain jobs, young people all over here and jobs over here. So this is a pretty global issue we have here. And again, that's on our website. Just talking about Sweden, I was over there and I got them to draw some pictures to illustrate, I don't know, I think it's quite a famous Swedish footballer, and I don't know whether they seem to have a lot of drunk police women over there, but anyway, so there we have a policewoman. Go back one. What we then asked on a small scale, I'm going to come on to a second to BC because we've done this, Bonnie did the same exercise on Monday. We got the people there to say, well, can you get some schools just to fill in, get the kids to draw a picture and see what they wanted to be. And they did two areas. One was a fairly affluent area, and one was a slightly more rural area. And I showed this at a conference which had sort of government and education, a bit like today. And the remark, this was a slightly posh area. And, you know, what you're seeing there, I don't know how to read, you know, is the sort of, I want to be a headmaster because of my dad. I want to be in the military. I want to be a pianist. I want to be a surgeon. You know, who are they? Well, mother, boss, and big brother, teacher. If I then go to a slightly more rural area, here we go. I think people were sort of stunned that, you know, it's like 10 kilometers from out the area. So there you go. Farmer, footballer. And we also asked other information about why do you want the job, would you want to go to university, languages, so you can get an awful lot of other rich data around this. So what's happening over down here? Well, Bonnie, you asked Doncaster Elementary to do this, and fantastic, and very, very quick turnaround. And here are some of the drawings that children have done. I mean, they're lovely drawings. So not there, someone wants to be a teacher, hockey player, an artist, two boys in one class I thought they wanted to work in fast food, but they actually wanted to build their own fast food restaurant. And I thought that was really nice. DNA, I can't remember those are the names of the two boys. That was their fast food restaurant. They wanted to start their own business. So it's amazing, you know, how people start thinking about things. Someone wanted to be a veterinarian, taking their dog to the vets to have advice. Girl wanted to be a soccer player. Some people, not surprisingly, didn't know what they wanted to do. Wanted to do lots of things. At an event we were with Bonnie yesterday, one goes, I can think of 10 different careers, and that's fantastic. But there was just thinking of the imagination of what they might want to do. So in terms of, we then put this in a little table. Here we go. I'll let you stood that for a second. I don't know if anyone's got any burning questions at this point before I move on, but interesting again, you know, do you know anyone who does that job? Well, you know, no one, you know, parents, teachers, mum's friend, and some, I mean, it's a very small sample, you know, I don't one can read in anything to this. Bonnie, maybe just as you're here, did you want to comment on that as you did it?
I do have a question. If it's
Yes,
all right.
yes. Yes, of course you can. Yeah. Just by the way, you need to put your hand up because I can't see otherwise. I can only see three people. So do please shout out, otherwise I can't hear. Please. Do. Yes, come. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. What I'm curious about is, I know that when they talked about the influences of how they heard about these careers, they talked about family or people within their immediate boundaries. Have we then done something after a presentation to say, this happened at school, or do you have previous data that shows that change?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of data on that. We did a big study of about 60,000 children in the UK, and it looked at how their aspirations had changed. I mean, we're not saying that, you know, one event is necessarily going to change kids' sort of future aspirations. What we are saying is that our research has shown that actually having multiple sort of touch points and engagements does actually shift that dial. We've done some other studies on our site, which I can show you, about the scaling up and particularly around the impact on children's attitudes to learning, you know, their attitudes to maths and science. I'll come to them. A lot of it is helping them to see why learning is relevant. But yeah, there is some changing. I'm always very wary of saying that we should be doing careers in elementary, because in a way, I think for me at that age, it's very much around the excitement of learning. It's learning to love learning. You know, it's been excited about the world in the way that you teach here, you know, about at those young ages, about religion, about foods, about their place in the world, about geography, and helping children to understand the world around them. To me, the world of work is one element of that, as much as going to the zoo, museum, you know, learning different cultures. The world of work to me is part of that rather than a distinct thing. And I think that's sort of embedding to show that range. But yeah, there is quite strong evidence on that, but we can come further on that. So yeah, okay. Please keep asking questions.
Yeah, no, that satisfies me. You're saying basically there's a noticeable bump afterwards. That's good to know. That's good to see. That's good to know. Thank you.
You know, thank you. You know, it isn't just about, you know, we're all sort of used to doing our own thing, aren't we? So when we see other people, you know, in our natural lives, all see a new experience, you know, well, you know, like today I saw these, you know, the teacher librarians. Oh, that's a brilliant idea, you know, and I think it's just kids are exactly the same thing. Well, I'd never thought of that because I'd never seen it. Bonnie, you said earlier, I can't be what you can't see. I think that Marianne Edelman, I think, said that, the US civil rights activist, you know, and there's a lot of truth in that. If you can't see it, how can you envisage it? And we can do that together. We can show children all these worlds in a way that hasn't really been possible before. So I'm going to come on to that now. So what we wanted to do in the UK, this is about 12 years ago, is we thought, well, actually who you meet has an impact, you know, on where you are. I mean, I wouldn't be here unless I come to that conference and met Bonnie, and Bonnie had seen that and so on. Equally, I wouldn't be here unless I'd be able to pick up the phone to Bonnie and say, can we come to your school, your district, you're doing fantastic things, can you host this session? So it's those connections, people. So what we wanted to do in the UK is we wanted to connect at scale, because people are very busy and there's not much money. So we wanted to do a sort of scale system that allowed people to be able to connect at scale in a really easy way that uses technology in the way we do, you know, for shopping or anything else to connect it. And that's what we built with sort of this online matchmaking platform, which I'm going to see if I can get working in a second. So we said that, you know, technology sort of has changed how we can connect. So why don't we use that to help schools to be able to connect with the world of volunteers? And our volunteers have come across all sectors. So they're all sectors, they're at all levels and all parts of the country. And our ask of volunteers is very simple. Will people volunteer an hour a year? And they go into an online system, and then the teachers or the career educators can go on, search a massive database as you would do if you were online shopping, and saying, that person looks suitable, I'll send them a message, and then it's all automated. It's a really simple national system to do it. So the idea is making it very simple for career practitioners, educators to be able to connect. So the customer, if you like, is the school, or in your case, it might be the teacher librarian. It is not the employer. The employers put the people up, but then it's down to the school to choose. And the reason we do it that, because then you meet the needs of the individual schools. It's teacher-led, it's school-led. They know the kids better than anyone. They know what will excite, what will motivate, what those children need. So we supply lots of volunteers that they can go through and choose. And what we know is the biggest impact is on children from more disadvantaged backgrounds, because they often have a narrower range of people they meet. You know, if you're in a very affluent middle class area and you grow up in there, your children go to, you know, parties at other people's houses. Adults are often professionals. You're into that sort of social capital is completely different than if you're maybe in a very rural community or in a very disadvantaged communities where the number of maybe professionals you meet is much more limited. I mean, you may be some inspirational people in those communities, but they're different. And so that what we've seen is those children sometimes have thought, what is the purpose to go into school? Why does it actually matter? You know, yeah, I go so far, you know, when my teacher's saying you need to do it, but after a while, unless they have that inner motivation to think, yeah, I could do that and I'm driven, it's really very hard. And that's particularly those older children who start disengaging. And very interesting to see Bonnie's talking about the research, you know, those 10, 11-year-olds are suddenly thinking, well, actually science, you know, there's no point to it. You know, maths, I can't really see the point of doing maths, you know, apart from my teacher. I'm getting old enough now, I'm making my own decisions. And you see a lot of switching off there. So this idea is about focusing on the relevance of the subject. And then we have a whole series of things. In a minute, I'm actually going to show you this in action. The online database, I'm going to come and see if I'm going to try and sort out the screen share and show you this in a second. I'm not going to do it now. But I'm now going to hand over to probably my two colleagues, Charlotte and Lisa, who really mastermind us to give you a bit of a flavour of what we've been doing in England, also what we've been doing over here in BC. Our programme in the matchmaking system is called Inspiring the Future. In primary, we call it, or in elementary, we call it Primary Futures. In hindsight, we should have probably called it All Inspiring the Future, but we chose primary because the head teachers in primary said, well, we feel a bit forgotten. We want something that's got our name in it. And actually the colours of Futures are the same as our main national head teacher body that represents nearly all primary head teachers. So there's a sense of belonging of that. That's why we did it. And it's about motivation and inspiring and bringing learning to life. Now, I'm now going to hand over to Charlotte or Lisa, or indeed both.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Yeah, so as I say, over in the UK, I've worked in childcare and education for the past 13 years. And before joining the charity, I was in primary schools in England for 8 or 9 years. So I know the UK curriculum very, very well. And it's been really interesting working with you guys over here to get to know your curriculum and the similarities and differences between that. And I think our curriculums are very, very different. But it's been nice sort of spotting the differences between our system and yours. And I think one of the key themes that's come up, and I think Bonnie mentioned this magical word earlier, and I saw lots of nodding heads in agreement, is time. And that's one of the key barriers that I think all educators, possibly around the world, seemingly are facing. And that's one of my key roles, is to make this kind of thing as easy as possible for teachers. And as Nick mentions, doing that on scale. So the map that he just showed you there is one of the key things that I oversee in my role. So our team support teachers in England on our sort of self-service platform. So they come on and they have a look for volunteers. And we would really like to show you how that works. So we will try and get the tech working in a minute. But yeah, so they can go onto this map. They can find people in their local area. They can look for virtual volunteers. And I think one of the key things that we try and do, and I've seen happening here as well, is to try and embed it into the system, into the curriculum. So having those volunteer visitors in to do with what you're doing already. So this is like what we've been seeing with Bonnie and with Dawn in their districts, where they're doing the skills that are to do with your curriculum. Ours is much more knowledge-based. So it's thinking about having those jobs representing the knowledge that the children are learning already. And thank you, Nick, for going back to the map. So as you can see down the side, there's lots of different filters here that we encourage teachers to use. So if they're trying to increase the motivation in maths, they might go onto the subjects filter and find volunteers that work with maths in their role. Or we might look at different sectors for different topics that we're learning. So whether we're trying to promote jobs in transport, if we're learning about different transports around the world, or in geography, or whatever it is, there's lots of these different filters to help narrow down the volunteers. Or you can leave it really broad. If you just want to raise aspirations generally, you can invite in all sorts of different volunteers to broaden those horizons and introduce new careers. So it can be as broad as you want or as narrow as you want. And one of our key things is to support teachers to bring in those volunteers themselves and make sure those activities are successful. So thank you. So if you just go back one slide, Nick. Thank you. So I think one of the key things we're doing in the UK, and it seems quite similar here. In the past, I think, try not to make too many assumptions, but in my generation, when I was at school, careers weren't a thing in primary. And I'm guessing that's the same for a lot of you. Careers were introduced when we were older, in older schools, if that, you know, that was if we were lucky. I think obviously all the research that Nick's talked through today shows how important it is to start early, but there are still people in our communities, possibly teachers of different generations, that have these misconceptions that it should be starting later. So one of our key roles, I think, you know, Bonnie mentioned, it's that sales pitch, it's that really trying to convince people of how important it is, and that's why the research is so important, to show about the starting early and scaling up. So yeah, just thinking about the if whether it's parents in the community, obviously everyone's here today because we do believe in it. There may still be teachers, it may be parents in the community who you may just face these challenges, but it's just about explaining we're not asking these children from K to 8 or elementary or in our primary schools, we're not asking them to choose a career at age 5 or 6 or 7. We're trying to get them excited. We're trying to raise their aspirations. We're trying to make those links to what they're doing. So in our system, this is why this knowledge is important. In your curriculum, this is why these skills are important. And you know, there are lots of crossovers between that as well. And just trying to encourage them to try hard at school, to make these links and to understand that this is why we're doing it. It's not just school and done. You're not using that anymore. It's to make the links of what they're going to be doing after they leave the education system. So if you could go to the next slide, Nick. Thank you. So this is one of our activities that we run in the schools, what we call classroom chats. So as I said before, one of my key jobs is to create resources to make this easy for teachers in the UK, and we're going to hopefully bring these over to you and make them really easy for you to use as well. So Bonnie's sort of adapted our what we call our What's My Line activity, and we saw a really great example of that yesterday. And this is another one that we call classroom chats. So it's just about the resources, and the support that we do is about supporting teachers to help volunteers to see that when we say to come in and present to children or to talk to children, we're not asking them to talk at children, because that's very unlikely to engage those children. So it's about encouraging that sort of interactive session, the questions, the talking, the back and forward, so that children can unpick the parts about that job that inspire them, that interest them, rather than the adults just sort of presenting and telling them, this is what I do and this is how it goes. And it's letting them unpick it a bit further. So we've got lots of guidance that I'm really excited to share with you, to share with volunteers, to help them be engaging and help them to interact with the children in these sessions. We had a really nice session in Dawn Anderson's district this week, where we had lots of interaction. We had I think it was K to 2 year group, and obviously they're not going to sit for an hour and listen to the volunteers. So I had them up doing charades, doing acting out of different jobs in between, just to keep those movement breaks in. And yeah, just really supporting teachers in a quick, easy way. They can send a volunteer these resources just to say, this is how you can adapt for children. This is how you can make it interactive. This is how the sessions run, and sort of a layout for the teachers of how to host it, how to start it off, the questions that they could support the children with, to bring out those conversations, to bring out that inspiration. Fantastic. So I think I will pass to Charlotte now, just to go over some of the activities we've been doing in BC. So yeah, over to you, Charlotte.
Great, thank you. So as part of the project that we're delivering that's been commissioned by the Ministry over here in BC, one of the, there's a few different elements to it. So Lisa's mentioned that, we want to create a legacy, and we want to make sure that there are resources to enable schools to do this type of activity themselves in a very easy way. So that's one of the sort of outputs that will be coming out of this project, is this pack of resources that will be shared with schools. But what we were also looking to do within this is to deliver some activities that were run by ourselves and sort of facilitated by us, to help the schools to see how this can be delivered, to share some best practice learnings from what we've done in the United Kingdom, as well as for us as to gain some insights into, you know, what does work within the system over here, and what might need to be adapted when we're thinking about those resources and the training that we're delivering. So this week, while we've been over in BC, we've delivered 3 in-person activities up in Dawn's the District 71, so Dawn Anderson's districts, and these have all been this Guess My Job format of activity. So we, these are sort of mentioned a little bit about them already. So this is the first one that you can see up on the screen here, is one that we did in Cumberland Community School. And this one was working with grade 1 pupils. What we did here, you know, because they're obviously quite young pupils, we had a relatively short session that we did deliver. And it was just about introducing children to a couple of jobs. So we had 2 volunteers that they met. The volunteers were, I think for this one, we had a pilot and a volunteer who also worked on wind turbines around repairing those. So the children were asking lots of questions to try and work out those roles. We gave them some hints and some clues along the way, because we know that, you know, for the very young years, they may not know as many roles as the older years may know. But they gave it a really good go with the guessing. I think got really close on a couple of the jobs, as well as having, you know, which is always the fun of doing these younger years as well, some really, really interesting, funny guesses. We have lots of jobs related to dinosaurs and paleontologists and working in a dinosaur museum. So it's great to see, you know, the jobs that they're interested in, that they're thinking about coming out of these activities as well. On the next slide, I think just you know, the event that Lisa was mentioning. So again, this was kind of the young years K-2, and here we had a smaller group of children. So we were able to make this one a little bit more interactive in terms of them getting up and about as well. So I think, you know, with all of these activities we're delivering, it's thinking about the size of the group, the age of the pupils, and which bits might be adapted, but the same kind of core format remaining of them trying to guess and work out and becoming detectives to try and work out the jobs of these volunteers. And then the third activity that we delivered was in Brooklyn Elementary School, and that was with grades 6 to 7. So these were obviously older pupils who had more of an understanding about different jobs, and had been doing some bit of work to prepare for this activity as well. We were really lucky to have 3 really great volunteers join us on the session. We had a lady who works at Ocean Networks Canada as their sort of education coordinator. We had a video game designer and a pilot as our volunteers, and you know, huge thanks to Dawn for sourcing these volunteers. We know and we do recognise, and I know we delivered a training session, which I think a couple of you were on yesterday, where we do recognise that the challenge with running these types of activities can often be finding the volunteers and building up, you know, those sort of networks. So Dawn's done a great job in her district of sourcing different people that can come to help with these types of activities. And I know that, you know, Dawn, feel free to jump in or to sort of put anything in the chat, but I know that you had a huge number of people come back to you when you went out looking for presenters in the school. So there is, you know, there are always people keen to do this. It's just about sort of building up those networks. And with the older students, again, the activity was tailored to sort of make sure that you know, it kind of fitted what they were doing. They were able to guess the jobs very well, actually. You know, they sort of really responded to the questions and really thought about the answers that were given and got very, very close. And I think, yeah, got 2 out of the 3 jobs, so were able to guess really well. So that was the type of activity that we've been delivering to sort of show the schools what can be done. We're also going to be running some virtual activities with schools from, I think, a few of your districts, and I know I've been in touch with a few of you on that. So those are coming over the next month. And what we'll do out of all of these things that we've delivered is we're building up case studies that can be shared across BC to help sort of show schools what can be done. And with, you know, the aim with all of these is that they can be replicated quite easily. It takes a little bit of setting up, but it isn't a huge amount of work that needs to go into sort of setting this up. And with the resources that we have, it's all there to kind of run it on the day. And this one, of course, is the one that we were at yesterday. So I can't take any credit for the excellent delivery on this activity. This was all Bonnie, but a really, really amazing event with some great volunteers there, and the engagement and inspiration for the children there was so good to see. And that's exactly what we hoped for. When we sort of set up, in the UK, when we started running these activities, it's so good to see that these formats can be adapted and can be brought in. And there are always bits that you'll want to change and to work on, but we hope that the resources that we create will provide a good starting point for things that can be brought into schools across your district. So we will make sure to share the case studies, the resources pack that we've got. And of course, if anyone wants to join any of the virtual activities that we are running, you are more than welcome to come on as an observer. We're running a big multi-school activity with lots of schools from across BC that are joining on the 1st of March. So please do drop me a note if anyone does want the details. So we do welcome observers, because that is part of how this all grows. If you can see what's happening and you can learn and you can sort of understand a bit more about how the format works, seeing it yourselves is always the best way to kind of understand how an activity goes. So I'm going to pass back to Nick.
Yeah, no, thanks, Charlotte. So, I mean, just see the contrast. This was ours, where we got sort of washing machines and 3 people, and this is Bonnie's. There's no comparison, is there? A fantastic event. So thank you, Bonnie, for organising that. And it's just brilliant to see. The other thing I'm going to just touch on briefly, and I'm going to hand over for questions, is the virtual. In a second, I'm going to see if I can get the technology working, because we think the virtual in-person is really important, and we now have a blend in the UK of in-person, because there's nothing like actually going into school, those side conversations, the things that don't come out if it's all virtual. If we were meeting today in person, it'd be much more exciting than meeting virtually, but virtual has its advantages that actually makes it a lot easier. And so we are sort of advocating a bit of both. And so in England, what we've got is a system where people can get local volunteers, but they can also get them the other end of the country. And I realise that that's not very far in England, but it's still a few hours drive. But it does give schools in rural areas, maybe coastal areas, access to volunteers in the big cities, but it also gives people in the cities access to people in those rural and coastal towns. So suddenly you have the best of both. And we've done various things. Actually, I do a lot with the OECD. That was actually Andreas Schleicher. We did an event in Davos. That's a Swiss school. And yet we have there a volunteer from Uganda, a guy who makes Aston Martins in the Midlands, and a French economist, all being into the same school. So the possibilities are endless. And I think, in the way that, obviously with Victoria, in Victoria's Day, some fantastic volunteers, but, up with Dawn, equally, but different, volunteers, people working on wind turbines, people working, as a pilot, where we could connect those 2 people into Victoria, and we connect people in Victoria up to Courtney and everything in between. So the potential for doing this and making it easy for teachers and career educators to connect, I think is very, very significant. I don't think yet we've really anywhere has appreciated the impact on who kids meet and who they can see if we get this virtual done properly and we can support people to do it. I'm now using one of the drawings that one of the kids did in Sweden, which apparently is not of me, but I think they've got their hair down to a T. So I'm going to hand over. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm just going to see if I stop sharing, I can show you the technology. So maybe ask questions while I try and fiddle to see if I can get that clip working.
Nick, I could show the video of the redrawing the balance in China.
Yeah, that would be.
Or will that confuse things?
Let me just see if I can get the. Sorry. Let me just see if I can now share my screen. Give me a second. So the best laid plans of technology. Is that working? Yeah. Right. Okay. So what you can see, I'll I'll just minimize yours. I can't actually see my own screen. So what we have here is we've got this is like the online sort of shopping center, right? So you got advice on what to shop for. So we've got how-to guides, teacher training materials. So all these are things that people can adapt and share, because I think, you know, we only learn from sharing with each other. And so this is obviously UK based, but this involves, you know, sort of 10 years of teachers developing things, training things, career professionals doing things, and, you know, having a place where they can share information and learn from each other and save each other a bit of time, because we're all on time. You know, the whole series of pre-recorded activities that children can do. Hugely impressed actually by, you know, the sort of books you have here. Went yesterday to a library, and the number of books you've got available for elementary on jobs is incredible. We have nothing like that in England. So, and some of the resources you've seen like that are brilliant. So lots of videos there. But the main feature I want to show you is a search for volunteers. So just wait if this should now show you a map if my technology is working. Now this is a map based in London, obviously. But what you can do here, that's showing, this is a school, and this is a radius, and this is in miles. So that's a 5 kilometer radius. So within a 5 kilometer radius of that school, there are something like, how many did I say? And you can do it as a list as well. You can see the sort of volunteers. But the main power of this is I can search by sector. Does someone, so I can do agriculture. Does someone want to shout out a sector they might be interested in? So if you were trying to organise something, I can't see everyone's faces. I don't want to shout out a sector you might be interested in searching for.
Engineering.
Right, okay, engineering. All right, okay. So I'm going to search for engineering, right? So I'm on the system. So this is, so we have 32 people, and they are all within a 5 kilometer radius of school. And what you can then do is you can view their profile. I'm going to pick them at random. And they're asked various things. So they're asked about languages they speak, the subjects they use, if they can talk about other things like gender equality or diversity. And so here's a little person's biography, their experience in presenting to schools, they're passionate, soft skills, interview, and so on. And if you like them, you basically add them to your shortlist. So it's like shopping. Okay, now, does someone want to give us another example? I'll reset that. Someone else shout another example.
How about art and design?
Okay, art and design. Where is art and design? Oh, yeah. So again, you've got, you know, head of things, you've got mentors, you've got a graphic designer. So there you go. So immediately now that you're looking at number of people there, you have 58, but that is only within a 5 kilometer. If you do virtual, you can search the whole country, and then suddenly you have 365 people, you know, someone in Wales, you know, just from British, you know, Associated British Architecture, Museum Conservation, with their profile. Yeah, it's still got 31 pages to go. Design, mentoring, Jersey, you know, got someone out on a different idea. You know, you're just a massive, and you can also search as well as that. You can search for, I'll do maybe one more example. You can search for languages people speak. You can search for the subjects if you're a subject teacher, or anything else. I want to give us a sort of final sort of thing you might want to search for as a career educator, finding volunteers. I want to give us a shout out for something. Either the subjects that you're using in classrooms.
Well, let's say history.
Right, okay. So yeah, I mean, all these people about history. I mean, some might be historians, you know, economic challenge. So there you go. That's for our own treasury. I don't know why they must have done history at school, you know. So they did this. ministerial physics explaining policy government position. So presumably they use a bit of history in that. You might get historian, you could also look for historian. But again, you're looking at, team leader, Middle East. So you're looking there at someone who works with the Foreign Office. So probably a bit of, there you go, fancy about geography, history, so on there about looking at some of the background you might need on that. I won't go on. So, I mean, that's 174 people. And that's not virtual. So if I go virtual, I've now got how many people who put history? I've got 821. I can also narrow it down. I can look at job title. I can do volunteer names. So you can get sort of very things. But the main thing to make it really easy is once you've got your shopping list, you go in and you say, what's your opportunity? Well, it's aspirations day. How many volunteers do you want? Put the date in, the opportunity, how many you need, what you can talk about, a bit of description, and then basically that then, I'm going to stop at that, that then emails all your shopping list, and then it's all automated, and then they get an email saying, you've got mail, someone wants you to do a talk, can you do it? Yes or no, or another time, and then the whole thing is then automated, so you then get a list back, and you can go on and see who's accepted, who's declined, and we can also monitor it to make sure that those individuals are getting enough responses. So that's a sort of national structure. And then it's used locally by different areas. So different areas will have a push. So it might be the chamber in an area will push to get volunteers in a particular area. It might be a national trade body. It might be a government, who are pushing. It might be different. We have a lot of various women's groups who are pushing to get more female representatives. So they've been pushing nationally. So it's about networks. So they'll push out to their networks, and that's available to anybody. And then people do things in their own locality as well. So that's probably enough talking from me. I'm sure it's enough talking from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. That is an incredible amount of work to put that together. I'm always in awe when you show it because I just can't get over. It just shows such a commitment from the people in the community, and it really highlights to them how important their role is not only in their career journey, but mentoring and fostering young people's career journeys. So, and we talked last night about, we've got remote schools where access to these professions are just really difficult to find. So the idea of a database, of virtual volunteers, light bulb moment, like that's a huge opportunity for our students across the district and across the province to be exposed to a better range of and a more broad range of careers. So we would love the ministry to get on board. We wanted to do this for a while. So if they're looking for a project, we can help finding those volunteers. But I think it would show the country how much we invest and think that these initiatives are important. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of get the technology working and show people how robust that program is, because it's amazing. So thank you.
Questions? You want to have questions? I think.
Yeah, we'll do questions now.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Alison.
So I have a small career talks list, nothing in comparison to what you have. And I'd like to echo what Bonnie said. I think it would be amazing for it to be a ministry initiative coming across the province and helping everybody access. When you have your guests, one problem I find that I'm having is keeping it current and up to date. So somebody will want to book something and then suddenly that person no longer wants to do classroom talks. It's a problem that I've come across quite a few times. So I'm wondering how you keep it robust and how you keep teachers engaged, because once they get a no, they kind of don't try it again.
Charlotte, I'm going to ask Charlotte or Lisa to answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question, and it is. I'd say that there are definitely elements of what you're saying that do resonate with us and some of the challenges that we face in the UK. With our volunteer base, what we do is, we've got a huge database, as Nick has shown. So part of the work we have to do is to keep that continuously refreshed and to keep engaging those volunteers. We've got a role within our Inspiring the Future team, a staff role that is just solely dedicated to volunteer engagement. So it does take quite a lot of work to kind of maintain that. So we have a kind of
sort of ongoing program of communications that go out to people. We make sure that those, those volunteers that have recently registered, that they are kind of understanding of how to sort of use the platform, and they have some training elements that they can access, and some materials that they can use while they're waiting for their invitation to come from a school. Nick showed how the platform enables schools to contact volunteers. There is also a mechanism for volunteers to say, to look at activities that are put on the platform and to say, I'm interested in that, to put their hands up and say, I'm someone that would want to do that. So there is a way for volunteers to put themselves forward. Where the volunteers are no longer available to volunteer, or they might say, actually, I'm really busy at the moment in my work, so I want to put a temporary halt on this. They can do that, and they can sort of deactivate their profile for a short-term period, and they can do that themselves, or they can contact us and we can take them off for a little bit. And then if people aren't responding, what we have is that we've got a system our side. So we run this through a technology sort of system called Salesforce. So it enables us to do lots of detailed reporting, and we can see if people aren't responding. We contact them. So if they haven't responded to a couple of invites, we say to them, are you still around? If they don't respond to that email from us, then we do take them off the platform to try and minimize the disengagement that is coming from schools, but also within the team that I manage and the team that sort of Lisa works with, we make sure that we're contacting schools. So if we can see that they're setting up an activity and they're getting a lot of declines from the volunteers, we make sure that we try and put forward other people that could come for that activity. So it does take a bit of work. It's not it's not sort of a platform that can run completely autonomously without any staff support. It does need some work behind the scenes, but we do have mechanisms in place to try and make sure that volunteers remain engaged and that schools are getting what they need out of the platform.
I think a huge benefit of having numbers at that scale as well mean that we often suggest teachers invite sort of 4 times as many volunteers as they'd like in. If they want 3 volunteers, they only send an invite to 3 volunteers. It's unlikely that all 3 will be available at the same time at the same place, because they are working as well. So we send out, say 12 volunteers invitations to get 3 in because of those acceptance rates and availability. And that's such a big part of having them at scale.
And if I can just jump in, I think Danny had to jump off the call for a second, but just to answer the couple questions about creating a database for us here in BC, that is absolutely what we'd love to do. I think for us, kind of what Charlotte and Lisa were talking about, how they'll be developing resources for us to be able, for educators to be able to make this project have more longevity and not just kind of a one-off. And part of that is creating some sort of database. And I think for us right now, it's looking at, and I mean, love to hear your feedback as well about what the best platform is, what the best method is to be able to have the most, the highest number of educators engage in it as possible. Like what the best platform would be. We were thinking something like ShareEd. I don't know if that would be what you guys would be interested in, but that is a huge part of the project as well, because we do want this to be something that has longevities that educators can look at year after year and integrate into their lesson plans and their classrooms. So any feedback from you guys would be really appreciated on that as well.
Ava, when you say sharing out, do you mean sharing out contacts with volunteer contacts or resources you developed?
Oh, so the resources we develop will definitely, sorry, I think I said ShareEd. Okay. But yeah, so putting the resources on the ShareEd platform, they will definitely be shared out to everybody. I think what we're looking at right now and wondering what the best method would be for the sharing out of volunteer contacts.
Great.
Yeah, so yeah, kind of what you guys were just mentioning, the best way to share that out so that you guys obviously will be able to access them, and it's in a platform and in a method that is actually that works for you guys.
Well, I guess Nick, you can answer that question because you sell the platform. You have the platform to integrate, which is, you've done so much of the work already, which is amazing. Oh, you're just muted. There we go.
I make more sense when I'm muted. You know, we sat down with our government, we sat down with employers, and we sat down with teachers and developed this site. And, you know, we've just sort of developed it over time. And, you know, what we've found is other governments have taken the idea and used it, and that's fantastic, you know, because we're in the business of helping kids. And if more kids can help, then that's fantastic. You know, it's fantastic as a little charity in the UK to be able to share. Even if one thing we've done today helps you, you know, and helps young people, then, you know, it's been worth us coming over to see you, really. So, and the technology is one thing, but it's actually about the impact and making it easy and saving time. So, you know, the technology took a long time to set up, but if you're doing it at scale, it's worth it. If you're doing it in one district, doing your own, you know, spreadsheet is probably easier for you, you know, but that means you have to have all the districts doing it. But, you know, that does work. But if you want to access it nationally and share and do it at scale, then that's economies of scale. That's really for the sort of more the ministry side to think about. We, you know, we can share, we've done various articles for the OECD about the thinking, and it's like most technology, you see the technology and you can clone it, you can copy it, and you can make it better, you know. It's the principles of how you can connect and making the school the customer, and that's the sort of thing. The technology you can replicate, whether this is Teams or Zooms, it doesn't really matter, you know. It's what we're doing with it that matters. So just one quick question, and various people, Brad, I think you had your hand up at one point. You still got a question there?
Sure. Well, actually, I was just going to maybe respond to Ava. Like, I mean, we're from the secondary perspective, and I'm actually loving all this. This is exactly the direction, you know, we'd love to see our elementary schools go. And, you know, I'm one spot removed, but want to get back into that environment as well. But like, if we use a program called, you know, the DCMS, the dual credit, and MyWEX at the secondary level, expanding into that, wondering, because there's the smooth transition straight through into the secondary model. I don't know if that's an option as well. You know, maybe working with them, with Blair and whatnot as well. I mean, I absolutely love your model. Like, if this would work here, if we could adopt this, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, I don't know if I'd have 50 contacts in the little town of Maple Ridge we're in 5 kilometers, but you know, it's a phenomenal resource though. I mean, this is something.
I mean, Brad, you know, what we found over time is people recommend, you know, it's about someone who knows somebody else. You know, so even the people we saw that, you know, yesterday, well, will your partner come along, you know? So I think we were talking to Melissa from the department yesterday, you know, her husband's in IT, well, will he come and be a volunteer? You know, so actually, if you make it really easy for the volunteers, it's an hour a year, you know, you don't have to give a presentation, you just need to turn up and the kids ask you questions, you don't have to prepare anything, you just have to turn up and it's really fun. As long as you can get that message out to volunteers, it's really easy that it suits you, and then other people do it. You see examples like, you know, the Bonnie one of the what's my line, and people see it and think, well, I'll do it. And I think it does take time, but yeah, that's
fabulous work. Fantastic. Right on.
Just on a quick question from me, and then I think George got a question. George,
sorry, I can just see that Dawn and George have got their hands up. Nick,
I've just said to George. Yeah, George, over to you, and then I think
I actually think Dawn had her hand up first, so I'll do that.
Okay.
That's a no, pass it. Okay, if that's a no, pass it.
I think you're on mute.
Okay, so basically, I guess basically I think one of the most natural integrations for something like this, personally, would be My Blueprint. That being said, I realize it's only in 47 of 60 districts, and that's a problem. Ideally, the platform that you would want should be equitable to all districts, irrespective. So that's an important consideration. But when I think of such a natural fit and how it would be more of a one-stop shop where a lot of people are, I think My Blueprint would be very good. But we need other districts to be on it, and that's through their own will. So,
Dawn, thank you. Dawn, you had your hand, but then you're on mute. So I think you're on mute. You're asking a question, but I couldn't hear you. You're still on mute. We still can't hear you. No, sorry.
I think it's her microphone.
All right, sorry, Dawn. We're not ignoring you. We can't hear you. Just maybe a question for Bonnie. I mean, you know, yesterday or Friday we did this sort of mini drawing the future, getting kids to draw in one school. Do you think there's interest in actually doing that, you know, in more schools in 71 and maybe for other areas, you know, either in individual areas or to do it combined and find out things? Maybe a question there for Bonnie.
Yeah, I think that if we could find a good cross section of districts that can do this coloring project with their schools, the data, not only for the schools, but the district, and then looking at it provincially. You know, as soon as I did the learning I did from one class, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get out and do this in all my schools. So I've got a really nice bit of local data to share with our board, which at this point, I don't have a lot of rich data right now. So yeah, I think that if we could get, you know, if you can handpick some classes, and honestly, it takes the students probably about an hour to do this, but the learning is really rich. It's really good. So yeah, I'm going to definitely do it throughout my district. I think it's been really useful.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to this in Sweden. I think what we did in England is we not just got the data from the children, but we also then used all the drawings to engage the business community, because we had these lots of lovely drawings. We then combined it with the economic data. So we combined the economic data with the children's aspirations to prove that something needed to be done here. Partly convinced people in different government departments who weren't convinced that careers is really important. You know, and yes, you might worry about the economy, but actually you're worried about the economy, you need to be worried about careers. So some of it was convincing some people who weren't that interested in careers or dismissed it as being unimportant, you know, because they were so worried about the economy, that if they're worried about the economy and people, they should really focus on careers. And that actually a little of investment in careers, you know, to get things right at the beginning, long-term for countries' economies, is a big saving. Because if you don't get it right at the beginning and you get the kids, you know, going to university, doing all these courses and no jobs, that is a much more expensive way for a country to go about than investing in careers and career practitioners. Sorry, Alison, you got your hand up, and then we'll come back to start with Dawn. Have you got your mic on, Dawn? Then we'll come on to Alison.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hey.
I just switched back to my Bluetooth. Okay. First of all, having taken part in this was fantastic. It really allowed, like, once you kind of go through it once, like you were just saying, Bonnie, you go, oh, okay, we could do this, and this is the next easy step. And I just wanted to go back to, let me scan the names here, Brad. So Brad, you mentioned getting volunteers and being in Maple Ridge and stuff. I'm in the Comox Valley, again, really small space. What I ended up doing is I copied, Bonnie had presenters requests on their district's website. I worked with IT. All I did is I actually just wrote a letter, like a little paragraph, really, really point form, because people don't like reading big emails. I said, would you be a presenter? Click this link. And they just clicked the link and they put in what schools. I just did it with IT, and it took IT and myself 15 minutes to make the entire thing. IT made a 30-second video on how teachers can use it. And basically parents I have over 200 parents that volunteered from our little tiny valley to come in and present, over 200. I had to vet them all. So Googled them all and was like, oh, who's this? And some people I had to phone call and make sure they were real, that sort of thing. And then I had to get rid of a couple, but it was really simple. I'd say it'd take you 2 days once you had the names in there to vet them all. And then you just create a package, but send that out to all teachers in the district with all of these resources if we can get them and organize them in a kind way. But the biggest thing that I think, and I noticed from our 3 sessions, is the easy access entry point for teachers. And I was even at a school today, I was back at Cumberland today, and I was talking with their principal. And the biggest thing is teachers are so busy and they prioritize English language arts and like all the other things and the parents and all the stuff. And so careers a lot of times gets put on the back burner. And so for us to be able to do this, one, they love the presenters. That's a huge thing. And as we are now seeing, the research is there, but just the preloading was critical. We saw with our 3 schools, some schools preloaded and some didn't, and it affected the presentation. So they really do need to do the preloading piece where it's what are good questions that students need to ask. And so they have lots of good questions. Okay, some primary questions, some intermediate questions, and then doing a little draw. What do we see? What do we think? What are our perspectives and perceptions? And then going into a session where they can actually, they're ready to grow. And then some good follow-up activities. But I loved it. I'm totally bought in. I got to get some stuff off my plate so I can do more of this because it's impactful.
Fantastic. And thank you so much. You know, it was really interesting to see how different people engage with it, but particularly the ones who'd done a bit of pre-preparation did. And I think one of the things back to the drawings is actually if you can show, as I mean, I just did some examples of what kids do, you know, actually sending out to people in the community saying, you know, we are the kids, we've got aspirations, we're the future, here are some of our drawings. It's a really easy way of kids saying, oh yeah, I should go and talk to those kids. And the more drawings you have, you know, you need to find an architect. Here's a lovely drawing a child has done as an architect, and you send that out to architects saying, come on, kids want to understand architecture. It's the best way of getting pictures of kids' drawings to get the volunteers. It really helps. Alison, you got your hand up for a little bit.
Yes, well, we've been big on trying to get career talks into the classroom, so I'm 100% sold, and I love your system. Dawn, I love how you're commenting about the preloading. That's super important because we always gave a little quick sheet. If you're going to present to students, here's what it looks like. 10 minutes looks like this. 30 minutes looks like this, just to keep that student engagement. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is I had read some research on getting career experiences for teachers. Do you work in that area as well? So I'm trying to convince teachers that it's professional development to go out and learn about the world of work more, because we live in a really public space. We have permanent jobs. Most of our students, when they're growing up, they should expect 15 to 30 different jobs. They should expect a different retirement age than us. And I feel like the world of work is something that I try to encourage teachers to learn about too. Have you been doing any work in that area?
We have done a bit, and there's a scheme there to try and get teachers out into the workplace. I mean, the challenge with that is teachers are so busy, you know, even finding time in the diary is hard. And so we found it easier to sort of bring in the world to the school rather than take them out, you know. So actually, you know, if you get the sort of thing like we did with Bonnie yesterday, we had, you know, we had 4 people. We had a female welder, we had a violinist, we had someone who did whales, oceanographer looking at whale sounds. I can't remember who the 4th one was. It'll come to me in a second, Bonnie. But, you know, the teachers were at the back there, just amazed at all these different careers and listening to them. And we had actually in one in your school, Dawn, one of your schools, Dawn, we had to stop them. We had the teacher at the back wanting to put their hands up to ask questions as a volunteer. I said, no, this is for children, not for you. Oh, we've got a question. No, this is for the children, you know. So actually, whether it's in person, actually, in a way, you are showing teachers what's out there, but through the thing, so they don't feel they're having to go on a course, having to be trained, but somehow they are learning about it more through osmosis through their own children. So we've thought, yeah, there is valuable. If you can have time to go out for a teacher, spend a whole day, you know, in a work placement, that would be good. The challenge is certainly in England, very few teachers have got a day to go out and do that. Whereas actually you could bring a lot of people from different sectors and the teachers talk to them either virtually or over coffee or in the classroom, you know, when they come in early and they have a coffee and they chat to them and they, oh, well, what's your job? And so on. And those side conversations, you know, when they're in talking to the teachers, suddenly you're imparting a huge amount of information about lots of careers very quickly in a very light touch way.
No, thank you. I agree with the bringing them in. Yeah, it's just an aspiration and it is trying to find ways to take them out. Last week, we took our whole team to the Rocky Mountaineer for a day, and that's where we held our staff meeting, which was one of the tricks that we did. Instead of just using a school building, we went on site somewhere. But no, it's. Oh, I think any tips you get.
It's a fantastic idea. I've been trying to persuade our Department of Education to hold some of its meetings in schools, you know, and actually go out into schools, you know, and spend, you know, have certain meetings in schools rather than hiring hotels to meet. You know, they can actually go to a school and sit there and actually meet people there. So it's the same principle. Yeah, it's a great idea if you do it. Yeah. I think we're probably time. Bonnie, you are chairing the session.
I am just kind of noticing, yeah, we've got 1 minute left. Brad, do you have something quick that you want to add?
Just really quick, like it's one of the things we find in high schools though, is there is no teacher training program for career educators. So, I mean, that would be really excellent if at the post-secondary level, they had a teacher training
Yes.
program, and we can learn to be in English and social science and English, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be something for the Ministry of Education to consider, you know, a career specialty or a specialty in career education.
Okay, just in case we get bumped off. I don't know how Zoom's gonna do this. Thank you so much for everybody coming. Thank you for our special guests, Nick, Lisa, and Charlotte. Always so much to learn from friends around the world, but I just want a huge thank you for coming all this way to spend time with us in our province, as part of the world. And I hope everybody had a chance and learned some things. And now we have new faces as part of our group. So let's keep meeting and continuing the growth in all our districts. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
Great to see you all.
Thank you.